Well, Russian intelligence services have relied on a private IT company for several cyber weapons, a company whose former workers, in some cases, are now employed by Western firms. That's according to thousands of leaked documents, which have been analyzed by a consortium of international journalists. The documents indicate that Moscow-based NTC Vulcan is developing tools to allow Moscow to launch cyber attacks, spread disinformation, and monitor additional sections of the internet. According to recent reports, former workers are employed by Amazon and Siemens, among other companies. Well, Marina Krotofil is a research assistant at Hamburg University of Technology, and she's looked through these leaked files. Marina, thanks for joining us. Amazon, Siemens, potentially among other companies that these former employees of this Russian firm are working for. I want to start with that. How disturbed should we be about this?
I don't think we really need to be concerned about that, because from other institutions which also participated in the cyber operations on the side of Russia, there is also other employees who are not quite agreeing with what they were doing, and they found jobs somewhere else, including in the Western companies. So I wouldn't be worried about those employees, because if you think about spies or something like that, those will be much more conspicuous people.
What's the most surprising thing that you learned in these files?
I guess I have not learned anything surprising, because I've been studying the Russian cyber operations for many years, since at least 2015. I investigated several of those attacks. I did incident response. So for me, it was rather a confirmation of what I already knew. However, I probably would like to emphasize, so the operations and capabilities Russia already possess, and they keep just developing them further. So the files which we analyzed, they describe the software and the infrastructure to support the centralized management of such operations, planning and management. So they save in advance the information about the vulnerabilities, about the infrastructure of those organizations in which they have strong interest. And then they store this information, they enrich with this information with additional information. And then the commanders, because we are talking about military organization that sits within Ministry of Defense, or basically it's military. So then the commanders are deciding what to do, when to do, with which resources, in which way, and what will be the outcome. They also spread those tasks between regional centers. So this is what the documents which we've seen are mostly about centralized management of such operation, which is much more concerning for me.
Do these documents give us any sense of what particular targets or what kinds of targets these hackers might be targeting when it comes to Western infrastructure or businesses?
Yes, they do. And the question probably could be asked, like, what do they not target? Because they target everything. So not only, so the most, of course, like alarming, it's the critical civilian infrastructure. They target the telecom, they target the transportation. They target also the democracies, meaning the internet, so create the autonomous internet segment when all of the requests and responses from the internet go in through their resources. So you can't even trust that what you're asking for is correct. So you already getting distorted information. So they target pretty much everything. There is nothing left.
Are there any lessons here for businesses when it comes to protecting their infrastructure, or is it just so broad what could be targeted?
So, yes, exactly. So the question is that they are interested, and they're interested to have any organization in vizier so that they could use them later. So those organizations with things like, oh, why would I be a target? Oh, you are, and especially what I would say, what we've learned from the war in Ukraine is that when they're talking about kinetic war, military war, this is a very fast-paced operation. So the kinetic weapons are used more often. When we talk about peacetime and conflict time, when, like political crisis, this is where the cyber operations will be used much more as a supporting and as a pressure weapon. So the cyber operation, they are even more worrisome and will be likelier used in the peacetime than in the wartime. So every organization is a potential target. When you have a, let's say, political crisis, or two governments are having something like to discuss, any civilian organization can be used as a potential targets to exercise pressure.
All right, Marina Krotofil at Hamburg University of Technology. Thank you very much.